Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're going to talk about Huesera, the Bone Woman.
Bone Woman.
A Spanish, technically Mexican, horror film about a woman who is pregnant who is being stalked by a creature that we can pretty much call the Bone Woman. And it is very much a body horror film, but it's also a psychological film.
Yeah.
Because the movie is ostensibly about a pregnant woman being stalked by a bone woman, but is also internally about a woman who is struggling between her past self, who she currently is, and who she should be. The bone woman, which is not only a thing that is stalking her, it also, to a certain extent, represents this struggle.
Yeah, the struggle of trying to maintain who you are in a situation that is increasingly becoming untenable. However, there's this complicating factor, and that factor is the child.
Yes. Does she want to be a mom? Should she be a mom? What is she giving up in order to have this life?
There are going to be a lot of people that have a problem with where this movie goes.
Oh, for sure.
Because this is a story of spiritual growth. It is not a happy story.
No, it is a gut punch of a film. It is emotionally devastating. It took me a good 24 hours plus to just emotionally digest the film afterwards.
Yeah, it's not an easy watch.
No, it is not an easy watch. And it does such a good job of putting you in the headspace of this woman that you feel like you've gone through the journey yourself by the end of it. Like you feel like you've gone through the highs and lows of it, and there's not many highs. There's not many highs at all.
You're basically watching this woman who has already given up a lot of who she really is. And the world just keeps taking more.
She was one person at one point in her life, really early on, like back when she was a teenager and when she was a young adult, slowly grew into this other person, and not necessarily for her own reasons, but because of the pressures being put upon her by family and society and all these other forces.
Yeah, primarily family.
And were those the right decisions? Is this actually what she wants? Or is she just appeasing her family and a society that rejected her in the first place?
Yeah, this is a story where the ethics of the tale would be very, 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 very clear, except for this arriving infant. It complicates it in a way that
makes it a lot messier.
Yeah, it's way messier. And I never had kids. I've known a lot of people who have had children, but also have known people who had children and then find themselves in like a really horrifically messy divorce.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, having a kid makes this way harder.
Oh, yeah. Having a kid complicates everything in a given relationship, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you work through it, it can be great at the end of it. It can be very fulfilling to be a parent. But if that's not the path for you, then that is going to be a disaster in its own right.
Oh, yeah. It's a really, 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 really bad idea. Anyone who has been raised by a parent who maybe should not have had them knows exactly what this movie is talking about.
Yeah, anyone who's had a parent who clearly shouldn't have been a parent,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So this movie is really, really messy.
And that's not even getting into the visceral terror of the manifestation of the bone woman every time she shows up. That's like the surface level of the movie is like this bone woman whose like body contorts, and every time it contorts you can hear the cracking of the bone.
Yeah.
Not only are you going through this heavy emotional journey throughout this movie, it is also getting you on a visceral gut level, because every time this shows up you're cringing, you have to like look away, and like I felt uncomfortable in my own skin watching this happen with the bone woman doing all that shit, you know? It's like it makes your skin crawl, like good body horror should.
It's one of those movies where there's a question as to whether or not the bone woman is real.
Yes. I would argue the movie does come to a conclusion on that, but it's still, regardless of what conclusion it comes to, the metaphor is still clear.
There's also a lot of Virgin Mary imagery for obvious reasons.
That is the other force at work here, the religious factor of it all.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. under Christ, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be a good housewife for your husband and raise many kids for the husband and perpetuate the Christian heteronormative, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and the main character has this other particular problem, which is it talks about like the bisexual dilemma.
Yes, that's a great example of something that we can tell you without getting into spoilers. She is bi.
Yeah.
And she spent a huge chunk of her youth in love with a woman that she essentially gave up in order to pursue this more heteronormative Christian household that she's currently living in.
Yeah.
And there's a huge question of like, was that the right choice for her?
And the reason she does this is because she has a great deal of loyalty to her family.
Yes. What I kind of like about this movie is that in an era of the Fast and the Furious, where it's all about family, this small little foreign horror film is standing up and saying, maybe sometimes it's not all about family.
Yeah.
Maybe you got to figure some shit out for yourself.
Her family is complicated.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big family. It's very complicated. And there are definitely some members that are more understanding than others.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, she has this one aunt who...
She's great.
Yeah. Because, like, everybody in the family, like, kind of in the beginning is sort of like, oh, yeah, don't bring up the aunt. Like, no, we don't talk about Bruno kind of shit. And you're like, I wonder why? What happened? And you're waiting for, like, some big reveal. But the reveal is... she's a lesbian.
Yep. She didn't get married and have a bunch of kids, therefore she's the black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
You have a clear demonstration of what she's worried of becoming.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she also has a very positive role model of what she could do.
What that is, yeah. Yeah, because the aunt is really good. And I like the fact that she is like this weird witchy lesbian who like drinks and smokes with like other witchy lesbians.
The witchy lesbians are some of my favorite characters in this. And also, to make it even more complicated, her husband that she's with, she seems to genuinely love.
Yeah. She doesn't seem like she's faking her love for the guy.
But the question becomes not necessarily being with him, but being with him and being a mother. What that means.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the big tension. And the fact that the kid is on the way means... This is coming to a head very quickly.
And while she's all dealing with this, you're getting these creepy ass scenes of like this random woman across the street falling off of a building and then contorting itself and crawling on the ground in her dreams, coming up and like breaking her bones, and no one else can see the bone woman, or at least the bone woman never shows up around anyone else. So she's constantly being treated like she's crazy for reacting to this thing that no one else can see, which adds more to the question of whether it's in her head or whether or not it is a real entity that is she is dealing with. It is a very visceral, intense, creepy, and emotionally devastating horror film that is not for everyone, but I do think a lot more of you will want to watch it than you think, because I think a lot of people go through this journey and it's never talked about.
Oh yeah, you almost never. It's almost never talked about, or if it is, it's talked about in those very like kind of American terms of like, find your bliss, do what is good for you. Oh yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, that's true, but no one talks about why that's hard.
Oh yeah,
and this movie does not shy away from why that's hard.
Oh yeah, and I also love the juxtaposing this with the Virgin Mary in particular. This woman who didn't ask for motherhood and had it kind of forced upon her as like this symbol she has to live up to. But does she have to live up to this?
Yeah,
live up to this? She has to be a literal saint.
In the beginning, you're just sort of like, well, maybe you could actually like reach a median and everything will be okay. But as the story kind of goes on, you're like, ooh.
Well, because what becomes clear as it goes on is that it's not really reaching a median so much as just burying the problem.
Yeah.
And so it becomes very clear by the end of the movie, she has to face this problem and come out the other side of this spiritual journey with an actual direction. And if she doesn't do this, it's going to destroy her, it's going to destroy her child, and it's going to destroy her husband.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend this movie, but with a million fucking warnings.
Yeah.
It is not for the faint of heart, and it will emotionally devastate you. And yes, the dog does die. I know we haven't mentioned a dog up until this point, but trust me, the dog does die.
There is a dog.
Yeah.
There's a dog.
And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, we're going to move on to the spoilers. Huesera, the Bone Woman, is currently available in a limited theatrical run and will be on Shudder at some point in time, but I don't know exactly when. I'll put right here when it's supposed to be hitting Shudder, if that information is currently available. If you can't make it out to the theater to see it, or if it's just not playing near you, definitely, if you got a Shudder subscription, check it out when it hits that, because in my opinion, one of the best horror movies of the year, but also one of the hardest to watch. If you're a queer horror fan, this is a must-see, because this deals with a queer issue that is not talked about in any movie. Am I in this heterosexual relationship because this is the one that's right for me? This pairing, me and this guy? Or am I in this relationship just to cater to the norm?
Right.
Just to fit in, just to pass.
Yeah.
And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, we're going to move on to the spoilers. Eventually, when things get bad enough, and by bad enough, I mean basically the Bone Woman starts taking over her and she starts waking up after having blacked out and having done something terrible. A great example of this being when she wakes up having blacked out and the baby's in the fridge. And so it's one of those, okay, I gotta deal with this because that baby's life's now on the line and that's no good. This movie ultimately culminates in her having to go to her aunt who connects her with these witches. And I love this because what it does is it juxtaposes the Virgin Mary Christ ideal of the nuclear family is not the right word, but the Mexican family ideal.
Well, yeah, it's that Christian ideal of like motherhood and all that jazz.
And juxtaposes it with punk rock witch queer world.
Yeah.
And she is torn between these two worlds.
The witch world is very scary. It's very threatening. But it's a much more nurturing environment because they actually care about what happens to her.
Yep.
You know, they don't care about what decision she comes to, but they're worried about like, look, we can send you to the spirit world, but it's gonna be some shit.
A detail that I really like is the implication that the aunt went through something similar.
Yeah.
Because she says, I went through one of the rituals and I was left with these scars.
Yeah, and she has these burn scars over like her arm and like the top of her breast.
And we don't know if that was like specifically she went through the Bone Woman situation or if it was some other one.
Like she was possessed by something.
You know, but very much in this world, they're using like curses as like a metaphor for societal pressures.
Right. Well, it's not so much a curse so much as an evil spirit.
Evil spirits. Yeah, evil spirits that haunt you. Its way in was the struggle she's going through.
Yeah.
So whether or not like you entirely read it as real or not, the metaphor is still there. I personally read the Bone Woman as a real thing, but it's also a manifestation of what she's going through.
Oh yeah. Like she has a literal confrontation with it.
Oh yeah. And the ultimate culmination of that is basically her having to burn one version of herself. And I love the metaphor because it's draped in the baby blanket, so you know which version of her she's burning.
And it looks like the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
So that's what's gotta burn.
She's gotta burn the version of her that's trying to cater to this heteronormative Christian norm. She needs to walk away from the family, give up custody to her husband, and go off on her own because this is not the life for her. It's very clear how much it is not the life for her because she is a bisexual woman who in her youth was a straight up nonconformist punk rocker. And it's very obvious she gave up a lot of things in order to just get into this relationship with her husband. Obviously at some point she gave up music in order to be a housewife for him. And her way of trying to reach equilibrium with that is to get into crafts and things like that.
Yeah, she's a carpenter.
So she starts like building chairs and things like that. But then when she gets pregnant and they're going to have the baby, she has to give up her workshop. So she's given up the music
Yeah.
She's given up the queer friends, and now she's got to give up the workshop, the last piece of her nonconformity, in order to facilitate the child being there and now be a mother, and now she's going to be fully assimilated into being a housewife.
And nobody cares that she's giving all these things up.
No.
Nobody cares.
No, everyone keeps acting like, oh, like, you're just pretending. And it's just like, but wait, you want her to do this. Why are you mocking her for pretending to be this thing when it's what you demanded her to be?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good thing that you're finally conforming and you're going to be a mother and you're going to do this and that and whatever. Oh, you want to babysit my kids? Oh, you can't babysit my kids. You're too weird.
Yeah.
You know, you can't handle this or whatever. Then why do you think she should be a mom?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, she's doing this to fulfill your guys' path for her.
Yeah.
But you don't think she can even do it. So why are you demanding her to do it?
Yeah.
Why are you putting that pressure on her? And the answer is they're putting pressure on her because that's the norm. That's the societal norm.
That's what they think is proper. That's what's supposed to be done.
And their equilibrium that they've found with their own journeys is to basically put down the black sheeps of the family, her and the aunt. Because apparently when this family gets together, they only do two things: bitch about the aunt or bitch about her.
Yeah, I had that exact same choice that she made in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, run off with us or stay here.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm out of this one.
Yeah.
I'm out of this bitch. Fuck that.
And the thing is, she makes that initial choice to stay instead of going off with her queer friends that are going to go off into the mountains and have their little queer commune or whatever they're planning on doing.
Yeah, whatever. It probably would have fallen apart, but whatever.
Sure. But it might have been the right journey for her to go through.
Exactly.
You know, it might not have been something that would succeed, but at least it would have been her path, right?
Yeah.
You can tell how much this, like, starts to destroy her. Like, even if you put aside the bone woman of it all, this entity that is haunting her, terrorizing her, and then over the course of the movie, taking over her and making her do terrible things.
Yeah.
Very Candyman style. What does she do immediately after getting pregnant and reaching the anxiety? Which, by the way, the manifestation of her anxiety is this weird way she like cracks her knuckles, and it's very unsettling every time she does it. Her fingers contort in these weird shapes.
Yeah. It's almost like she has like rheumatoid arthritis or something.
And she's constantly cracking them, and just the sound effects are just, they're perfect, but they're also,
Yeah.
She goes to her old lesbian lover, and while pregnant, cheats on her husband.
Yeah.
So obviously, even before the baby has arrived, even before the bone woman has taken over her, there's a part of her that is not wanting to be there.
Yes. They give her every reason to not want to be there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this isn't...
Even the husband, as much as she loves her husband and as happy as they are in moments.
Yeah.
When the shit hit the fan, the husband basically took it as, well, my wife's gone crazy and I'm just going to bring my mom in and we're just going to try to like pretend like this isn't happening. You compare that to the girlfriend who drives her to the witches, even though she doesn't necessarily believe that she's going through what she's going through.
Yeah. His quote unquote friends were so bitchy and mean to his wife.
Like, how could you tolerate that in front of you? Like, come on, from your friends? Like,
yeah, no, like, I would have fucking punched a motherfucker.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
You know, it'd have been like, get out of my fucking house. Like, you gotta treat my wife this way. Why would you let that happen?
Yeah, fuck that.
Fuck that. You know, like, and so, like, all that is a lot of evidence that she's just not where she should be. Not at all. Not even close.
There was a point in this movie where it showed me something that I eventually realized what it was, but when I first saw it, it unsettled me so much that, like, I leapt out of my goddamn skin. And it is the weird bone woman orgy that happens in her spiritual journey.
Yeah.
There's a point where she comes across what appears to be a pile of bone women. And at first it looks like they're all like fused together thing style, but they're actually all contorted into each other because their bones are all busted and stuff, and that unsettled the shit out of me when I saw it. And then you watch as they uncontort themselves and then start to like pursue her like en masse. It's a creepy sequence.
Oh, last scene. Oh, geez.
When the walking away from the husband.
She walks away from the husband and the kid.
It's a gut punch, but by the end of the movie, you find yourself going, yeah, she had to.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter how she feels about her husband, no matter how she feels about a kid, no matter how much that kid might need a mother, she can't be that person.
She can't be that person, yeah.
It just would not work, and it wouldn't be right for the kid either.
No. But that still sucks because, you still feel responsible.
Oh, yeah. It's not the happy decision.
No.
But it is a decision in which the least damage is done.
Yeah.
Anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, where can they find you, Count Jackula?
Oh, you can find me on Twitch at Count_Jackula. I also have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to me on. I also have a TikTok, which is The Real Count Jackula.
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram, and Facebook. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so that you're notified of our videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way. And if you made it this far into the video, then I want you to comment below, and be sure to comment below using the hashtag Fridge Baby. Use the hashtag Fridge Baby, work it into your comment however you please, but that way I know. That way Jack knows, who's right here this time. That way Jack knows that you watched this video all the way through. With that said, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and I'll catch y'all later.